called Five Most Disturbing Caving Videos. So you're telling me the rock climbing brothers are real? Those brothers are real.
On May 6, 2019, YouTuber Connor Kelly posted a video of him
Yamaha.
exploring an abandoned McCoy gold mine in the Nevada desert. However, what was supposed to be nothing more than a fun adventure with his family quickly turned into a disturbing experience, one that would likely stay with the group for the rest of their lives.
We don't do a lot of talking here first. Oh. Because there's always fear that the sound will bring down loose rock. Oh, fair enough.
The exploration of this mine started off quite normal, with the group staying silent to avoid causing an accidental cave-in, as seen by the text they put on screen. However, after about a minute and a half of treading deeper into the mine, Connor noticed something strangely reflective on the path ahead.
I know something reflecting back at me.
So, do you see that reflection? They're trying to...
The rock is very close, very loose.
Oh.
What is that? Bones. I realize what they are. I got chills. It's shoes. Oh. I know some brothers further down.
Okay, wait, don't move.
Yo, I'm back. Was just editing an RL video. Oh, wait. Wait. Welcome back to the stream, right?
What they found reflecting back at them was a shoe, amongst many more, in a massive pile with red.
You could sell that. I'm not gonna lie. You can take it to the... Who's that brother that cleans shoes? I don't know. Take it to him. He'll fix it. Trust.
Scattered throughout.
Sell that dog.
That's a bone right
Found a shoe and there are bones in it.
there.
You.
Actually, there's quite a few bones in this.
What made this pile even more odd was the sheer variety of shoes on display. Many of them were clearly very modern, while some were models that were released over 30 years ago. How could such a random assortment of shoes end up in an abandoned gold mine in the middle of nowhere? Things took an even darker turn when the group ventured further into the cave and found a bunch of bones, including a relatively intact spine.
It was a highlight reel. Oh, bet.
This is water flowing.
Party song. Oh, which one? Which one?
Great. So we can't trust this.
Best editing I've ever done. I'll peep the video on stream. Cocaine Nose. Have I listened to it? I have listened to that. I just don't remember how it goes.
Increasingly unsettled by these disturbing discoveries, prompting them to leave the cave as quickly as possible. And that's where the original video ends, without any explanation or resolution. Connor didn't provide any more information in the video's description or in the comments after this, but none of these videos included any updates on the disturbing encounter either. So, what's going on here?
Adidas.
One of the first
That's
things
crazy.
that
It
comes
is.
to mind is that this mine was the collection spot for a serial killer. This would explain both the shoes and the bones. A top comment on the video also backs this theory, stating, "If you ever listen to the Missing 411 videos, you know shoes are a major component of missing or abducted people. This sent chills down my spine." Which is true. A statistical analysis of the Missing 411 data shows that over 15% of the cases involve absent shoes. However, this theory isn't entirely likely. For starters, I couldn't find any news reports regarding this mysterious pile of shoes, which is odd since, judging from the number of shoes, this supposed killer would have had hundreds of victims.
My brother's been wrecking up buddies like it's Among Us for a damn.
History, it probably wouldn't go unnoticed by the media. More importantly, many people on the internet agree that the bones in the video are not human. The group in the video reaches the same conclusion when looking at the bones for the first time.
No, it looks like a cow or a horse. Way too big for a human.
Put simply, the odds of this being a serial killer trophy cave are very low. But given the animal bones scattered throughout the area, it's possible it was the feeding spot of a predator like a mountain lion. Though while that might explain the bones, it offers no clues about the pile of shoes. One theory I haven't seen
is a hungry ass mountain lion, right there.
Ended up there because of flooding. You see, the McCoy mine where the video was filmed is located in Lander County. And from what I can find, that area is quite prone to flooding.
Nevada.
So it's entirely possible that someone dumped their sneaker collection in the middle of nowhere to get rid of it, only for it to be carried in the abandoned mine with rainwater.
That is also true.
A mountain lion could have moved in later, which would explain the bones. The only
How
proof
do they know
I
it's a
have of
mountain
this
lion,
theory
though?
is that the ground in the deepest part of the mine is extremely wet and has water flow marks leading into it. Other than that, it's pure speculation. That said, another potential explanation for both the bones and the shoes is that Connor placed them there himself in hopes of creating a viral video.
Why the fuck
People
would
on the
Connor
internet
place like
pointed
12,000 shoes there, dog? Damn.
out that the bones in the video are a bit too clean for something left in a muddy cave by a predator.
That is also
Some
true.
have also claimed that a few of the bones look like they're inorganic fabrications. Another
What is that?
inconsistency in Connor's
Right,
video
damn, my voice
is
is
that
going.
he and his group keep claiming that all the shoes in the pile are kid-sized.
There's no doll shoes in there.
It's Diddy's cave.
He even
They found Diddy's cave, bruh. Damn, this is where he goes, like, off to jail, dog. This is a hole that they found in his house, dog. I'm telling you. It's full of kid shoes.
mentioned that in the video's title, which reads, "Kids
You go any further and you're gonna find a bunch of baby oil. I guarantee it.
shoes and bones found in abandoned mine." Now, while that makes an already creepy situation even more disturbing, it's simply not true. There are plenty of adult-sized shoes visible in this pile. Unfortunately,
Diddy was
I
into
doubt
all
we'll ever
types,
know what
though.
happened here for sure. It's been 6 years since the video was uploaded, and as I mentioned earlier, Connor has vanished completely from the internet ever since.
Rest in peace, Connor. What the fuck is going on in that area?
Action Adventure Twins is a YouTube channel run by brothers James and Edward. The duo has been exploring dangerous and cramped caves since early 2020. Yet, despite their combined experience, one of them almost lost his life back in 2022. In
Ruh-roh.
January of that year, the two decided to explore the popular Petty John's Cave.
But damn, all these caves are like those cave diver meme TikToks that I see. It's just the brothers putting their shoes on something. Oh my days.
in Georgia. They had already explored parts of this maze-like cave multiple times before, and had even found an underground waterfall during one of their expeditions.
Mud.
Put simply,
Muddy,
they
muddy,
were
muddy,
pretty
muddy.
confident in their ability to navigate through this cave. But unlike their previous ventures, this time they were going to tackle one of the hardest sections, the aptly named Nervous Breakdown, referring to how cavers feel when going through it. Things started off just as expected, with the pair going through the narrow and claustrophobic entrance to reach the first open area of the Petty John's Cave.
That looks like Mudang. That rock looks like Mudang.
Entrance to reach the first open
This rock over here looks like Mudang.
area of the Petty John's
Can't
Cave.
tell me different.
Whoa, entrance room.
Shaking jockey. Sorry.
However, it didn't take long for the cave to begin closing back again, forcing the two to squeeze through tiny passageways. But that was only the beginning. After about 25 minutes of crawling through increasingly tighter spaces, they reached the first big obstacle, a muddy room with a narrow and steep hole in the middle. They had to carefully walk around this hole to progress. A single slip meant falling into the narrow hole and possibly getting injured. And given the lack of safe footing around the hole, it would have been near impossible for the other person to pull them out. After successfully navigating around this obstacle, they finally arrived at the entrance to Nervous Breakdown. Unfortunately for them, things
had a
weren't
nervous
looking
breakdown?
good. The area surrounding this entrance had collapsed some time ago, making it very difficult to figure out the path ahead.
Gotta go
After looking
backwards.
around for
Like
a
the
bit, Edward eventually found the real entrance and was excited to go in. He genuinely couldn't wait to find out what was down there and began his descent, leaving his
Bro,
brother
damn, what are you
behind
looking
in
for,
case
bro?
something
This ain't
bad
Minecraft.
happened.
I'm gonna
What
find
he
no
didn't realize
ancient
was that
debris,
this was
no
about to be one of
diamonds,
the
bro.
worst
Damn.
decisions he'd
Go
ever
back.
make. Because after descending for a few minutes, Edward called for his brother, only to be met with complete silence.
Edward.
I found a rope.
What is that? What are these like silver things over here? They look like bullets. I think.
Huh.
I ain't sure.
Huh. I don't hear James anymore. Uh-oh.
Bro, damn, look at this
In
brother.
other words,
He's
Edward
literally
was
living
now
up to the cave
lost
diver
in
stuff.
an unknown section of the cave without any means of contacting his brother. At first, he tried to stay calm and continued his descent, hoping to find James before long. However, after staying separated for over 30 minutes, the realization set in. He knew panic was the fastest way to make a bad situation worse, but at this point, he couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease.
He's having a panic attack. That's what it's named, right? I don't know.
James! James! It's been like 30 minutes since I last saw him. I don't even know where I'm at. I tried to go back to the last place I saw him, and everything just looks the same. It's just a jumbo maze.
This is not a maze, it's a bunch of rocks, fam. Oh well.
Should
Never mind.
split up.
After calling out to James many times with no luck, he decided to retrace his steps and find the way back. Unfortunately, he had underestimated the difficulty of the maze he was about to enter. Every direction looked the same. The narrow passages and jagged walls made it impossible to tell where he had come from. To top it all off, his situation was getting worse with each step he took. If he went the wrong way, he could easily wedge himself into a passage too tight to escape, or worse, plunge into a hidden drop-off. This is the true horror of caving. Even if he didn't injure himself, he could have just as easily wandered around aimlessly until his body gave way into exhaustion, leaving him lifeless in a
Oh, the
cold, rocky
batteries.
crevice. The footage of him excitedly dropping
Ew.
into the nervous breakdown entrance would have ended with the camera recording his descent into confusion, fear, and eventually silence. Fortunately, that wasn't the end of his story. After going in loops for a while, Edward spotted a single piece of tape he saw on his way down.
Oh. The tape. Yeah. Okay, this tape looks familiar. Oh, yeah. This has got to be the way.
Did Edward get out?
I'm getting close. James!
No, it's James.
Still nothing.
This unexpected clue turned out to be exactly what he needed. It helped him regain his bearings and finally head in the right direction. Finally, he heard the best sound he could have heard in that moment.
James?
James! Oh. You're over here? Oh. Dude,
Shout out James, shout out James.
this place is a maze, man.
Oh, hey, I see your light.
Dude. I thought we were never gonna see each other.
Dude, I know.
Oh.
The two stayed together for the rest of the expedition and made it out alive without any major injuries. They're still exploring caves on YouTube, but now with a lot more caution.
I don't understand cave diving. I've been
In
caving
June
once.
2nd,
I think I was in there for like, what was it? It wasn't that long. It was like 2 hours maybe. We were in a cave, but we had like cave explorers with us. It was pretty chill, I won't lie. It was cool as hell.
2014, a group of cave explorers decided to conquer the Lost John's Cave in Lancashire, England. It's a vast cave network that spans a length of nearly 3 miles, or 4.8 kilometers. The known deepest section of this cave also goes down a staggering 690 feet, or 211 meters. Most members of this group had been spelunking for years, and like most other cave explorers, were quite confident in their skills. They had also done their research and mapped out their route in advance. But the truth about caving is when things
That brother looks like Chico from Five Nights at Freddy's.
research and mapped out their route in advance. But the truth about caving
Bruh, damn, he looks like Chico from Five Nights at Freddy's. Hold on. He looks like Toy Chica. Okay, bruh, damn, she's bad. Anyway, bruh, like the fuck? Does he not look like Chica? He looks exactly like Chica.
is when things go wrong, no amount of planning can save you. Even the most experienced and well-prepared explorers can find themselves in terrifying situations, which is exactly what happened to one of the members of this group, named Bob Johnson. The expedition was
It's
going
Chica.
quite
I'll
smoothly
bet
in
they
the
both look like
beginning,
Chica.
with the group using the equipment they brought with them to continue safely. That is, until they reached a section of the cave called the Tube. It was an unusually narrow section that required the cavers to crawl on their stomach. And to make matters worse, it was also partially submerged in water.
Bro,
making
do you
it
gain
difficult
anything
to
from
both see
spelunking?
and breathe. Despite these harsh conditions, the group decided to move ahead.
I don't even
The
know.
slimmest member of the group went first and successfully made it to the other side without much trouble. The next person, however, wasn't as fortunate. This was Bob Johnson, the man we mentioned earlier.
That is the most basic ass name. Brother's called Bob Johnson.
His crawl through the tube wasn't off to a good start, as he was already having issues with the comparatively wider sections of the passage.
Bruh, damn, I'm getting claustrophobic from just watching this.
He then somehow managed to reach the tightest part of this treacherous section.
Bob Johnson as well.
But
Brother, damn,
that's where his
that's
luck
got
ran
the
out.
most basic ass name I've ever heard. Man, you're telling me that these these parents looked at these parents birthed him. No, they got pregnant. They waited 9 months. They had the baby, and in that moment, they looked him dead in his eyes and called him Bob Johnson. Brother, damn.
He was completely stuck from the waist down, and any attempt to free himself only made the situation worse.
Nah, dog. Ooh, that scares the hell out of me.
Now, being stuck in a narrow cave like this is extremely
That would scare the hell out of
stressful
me.
on its own. The walls close in on you, and every movement feels like it's pushing you further into the tight space. Panic sets in as you realize just how little room you have to maneuver, and with each failed attempt to free yourself, the fear intensifies. But as if the confined space wasn't enough to make his heart race, Bob now had to contend with something far more terrifying.
Oh, the water's
the
coming in.
rapidly flowing water.
Oh.
Water makes any caving venture 10 times worse. In a dry cave, even if you're stuck, you still have time to think and plan your escape. But when water starts to rise, the situation shifts from bad to life-threatening. The feeling of water creeping up around you in an already claustrophobic space is a nightmare on its own. The real danger with water,
Free my boy
however,
Bob
is
Johnson,
that you have
dog.
mere minutes before drowning becomes a very real possibility. Bob knew this possibility all too well. He gave his all to free himself.
Did he get up?
Unfortunately, the water was quickly filling up his suit, making it even more difficult
Oh.
to squeeze through. But when the situation seemed hopeless, one of the members had an idea that ended up saving Bob's life.
Shout out Bob
Instead
Johnson.
of pushing forward, the members behind him tried pulling him back, and it worked.
Let's go. They got Bob Johnson out. He looks like Johnny Sins.
Yeah, it looks tight. Billy, I get it. Pull in!
Bob was finally free, though his troubles weren't over. He later revealed in a comment that him and the two members who pulled him back had
Damn.
crawled for another 3 hours to get out of the cave from a different exit. This incident also left him traumatized to the point where he can't even watch this video without becoming anxious. From what I can find, he scaled back on caving and picked up a much safer hobby in cycling, and now appears to be doing just fine. On the 7th of September 2024, the Action Adventure Twins YouTube channel
That's a-
posted a video exploring a mysterious cave.
We've
someone
seen
found
these
on
guys like 3 times, haven't we? These brothers are just getting f***ed by these caves.
property. This is the same channel we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
where the two brothers got separated and almost lost their lives in the maze-like cave.
These guys are just
They've
getting
learned
f***ed by the
lesson
caves.
since and approached this one with far more caution. But with an entrance as life-threatening as this one, even the best precautions could have proven to not be enough.
Alright, so the guy dropped us off halfway up the hill, and he doesn't know anybody who's been down this thing, but we were at the cave. He says he threw a rope down it with a rock and it was 200 feet deep before it stopped. So we got this stick here. We're gonna see if our rope reaches.
That is not a cave. That is a secret lair.
Oh,
What the fuck?
you were right, it kept going.
That is
This
a
alone
secret
is
lair,
enough
brother.
to terrify most people, with one
What the hell? That is a
person-
secret ass lair.
You
Wait,
were
hold
right,
on.
it kept-
Listen to this shit.
This stick here. We're gonna see if our rope reaches.
That shit sounds like metal. That brother, damn, that shit sounds like metal. That is a secret lair, brother. They got Dr. Doofenshmirtz up in that hole.
Oh, you were right, it kept going.
This alone is enough to terrify most people, with one
Motherfucker, you
person
better
stating,
go into Dr.
"This channel
Doofenshmirtz's
has
lair.
given me a
Where's
new
Perry?
fear about
Where's
walking
Perry
in
the platypus?
woods. The fact that you could just slip and fall down a hole like that is insane. Now anytime I go anywhere, I wonder how many massive voids are right below my feet that I could fall into at any moment. But that didn't deter Edward and James. They quickly secured their rope to a nearby tree and began descending into the steep cave.
What are these basic
What
ass
they
names?
found inside was nothing short of breathtaking. That tiny opening gave way to a vast chasm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This is a big one, man.
However, before they could fully take in the beauty of the cavern, things took a dark turn. Just seconds into the cave, the two discovered what looked like human remains scattered throughout.
That's comforting. Human bones, huh?
Ew. Bro, I'm telling you, that's a secret layer.
There's like a little shrine of them. There's like, oh, that's a cranium.
Dude, is that a human?
Brother, that's a secret layer.
I don't
Get out.
know. It's awfully round.
Yeah, that looks human, man.
That doesn't necessarily make, I don't know. I'm not a bone expert.
From there, they continued exploring the cave as it kept getting bigger the further they went into it. They also discovered old caving equipment like ropes and harnesses already secured to the walls, a detail that only deepened the mystery surrounding the bones they had found earlier. If they did belong to a person, as the two suspected, it was possible they belonged to a previous explorer. This explorer likely had an accident and died in the cave without ever making it out. On their way in, they did find scattered bones right below the entrance. These were likely the remains of people who accidentally fell into the otherwise unassuming hole. However, the bones they found further inside were too far from the entrance to have belonged to someone who simply fell in. It's also possible that these remains
Telling
belonged
you,
to the
dog,
victim
secret
of
layer.
a deranged killer. Someone who either had ended a person's life within the cave or maybe threw the person into the hole and later dragged their body further into the cave. Some people, however, weren't convinced and accused the brothers of faking the whole thing, especially since the way Edward and James handled some of these remains felt a bit too casual. That said, while YouTubers
It's
faking
these brothers' secret layers.
these
Telling
finds
you.
to get a viral video isn't uncommon, this one turned out to be true. The video received several comments from experts confirming that these remains were indeed real and human, with one such person writing, "My girlfriend and I are watching from Canada. We're both paramedics, definitely a human femur and a human cranium. But this raised an even bigger question. When did the owner of these bones pass away? If they disappeared into the cave in the last few decades, this discovery could end up cracking an unsolved case." I ended up contacting the action-adventure twins to see
Oh,
what they
damn.
had to say or if they had made any
That'd be
police
journalist.
reports afterwards. We ended up contacting the authorities about the bones. They were determined to be human and were apparently a Native American that either slipped and fell into the pit cave or was thrown in there after death and are 2,000 years old.
I'm telling you, dog,
While
secret
this did
layer.
rule out the possibility that these bones belonged to someone more recent, the despair of whoever ended up in that cave alone 2,000 years ago is just as impossible to ignore. They likely fell into the cave, somehow survived the fall, and ended up starving to death while looking for a way out. On October 28, 2004, 50-year-old Australian airline pilot and scuba diver David John Shaw broke the world record for the deepest successful dive in history. He
Damn.
achieved this by reaching a depth of 270 meters in Bushman's Hole, one of the deepest freshwater
Hey, yo.
caves in the world.
Hey, yo, ass name. What the hell?
The sole purpose of this dive was to break the record. However, when he reached the bottom, he found something that stopped him in his tracks. He found the body of Dion Dreyer, a 20-year-old scuba diver who died in that cave
Oh,
10 years ago. Since humans start sinking after a certain depth, Dion's body never floated back to the surface. Given the extreme difficulty and danger of diving this deep, any plans to retrieve his body were also cancelled at the time of his death. However, a plaque in his name was installed near the diving point of Bushman's Hole, which is how Dave knew what he was looking at. After staring at the body in shock for a few seconds, Dave immediately got closer and tried to retrieve Dion. Unfortunately, after a decade in the water, his tanks were firmly stuck in the mud. More importantly, Dave had already spent too much time at that depth. Staying any longer would have been fatal. So he decided to tie a line to Dion's body and return to the surface with the newfound information.
Wasn't very steep. And when I saw the body over on to my left, I thought, oh, that's the end of going deep. So just tied my line to it. And by then I was, well, we won't discuss that. So I just left my line.
The news of Dion's body being discovered spread quickly, eventually culminating in Dave talking to his parents and promising to retrieve it. After a couple months of preparation, the next dive was scheduled for January 8, 2005. Unfortunately, Dave's heroic attempt to bring closure to Dion's parents ended in a catastrophe far worse than anyone could have imagined.
Oh no.
Cave diving, aka underwater cave exploration, is far more dangerous than regular spelunking. The divers have to manage their oxygen levels at all times, avoid often sharp rock formations, and explore the cave system in a far darker environment because even the brightest flashlights aren't as effective underwater, all while making sure they don't get lost. Add in the immense pressure of 270 meters of water above, it becomes an almost insurmountable challenge, one that only a handful of people on the planet are capable of overcoming. So, everything needed to be perfect for Dave's operation to succeed. He worked with police divers, the defense force, and medics to ensure everything went smoothly, and they planned the dive second by second. According to the plan, Dave would use the line he tied earlier to reach Dion's body. After cutting it loose and putting it in a special body bag, he would begin his descent. This descent would have taken around 12 hours to avoid decompression sickness.
Damn.
So instead of holding on to Dion's body the entire time, Dave would pass it along to his longtime friend Don Shirley at 220 meters. Don would then hand it over to support divers located at various depths and keep checking on Dave for any issues. Sadly, this is not how it went. An hour and a half after the dive began, the surface crew received an ominous message from the support divers, claiming that they hadn't seen any activity from Dave or Don. Shortly after, another message reached the surface. This one was from Don, stating that he's seeing Dave in the distance, and he's not moving.
Don's okay.
Don's okay.
Dave's looking
While this message was making its way to the surface, Don tried to reach Dave himself. He exceeded his target depth, which resulted in his rebreather controller imploding. This also led to him suffering from oxygen poisoning and vomiting while 220 meters under the water. Fortunately, he managed to keep hold of the line and was eventually pulled out of the water still breathing. Dave, however, didn't make it.
Rest in
But
peace,
when
Dave.
rescue teams pulled out his body, they made a shocking discovery. Dion's body was attached to the recovery line as well. Following the recovery, investigators looked at the footage captured by the waterproof camera mounted on Dave's head.
I see this.
This is what they saw. Though I should mention, I couldn't find the raw footage from that camera. The only clip of it online is narrated by Don himself, Dave's best friend who we just talked about, who almost died trying to save his life. The footage shows Dave moving alongside the line to find Dion's body, and then trying to put it in the bag. Unfortunately, this is where the plan started falling apart. Dion's body was unexpectedly loose from the mud and was moving around uncontrollably. Dave tried to complete his mission despite this, only to end up getting tangled in the line.
Oh
This
no.
line is just getting everywhere because this body is floating. It's not stuck. Everything's moving.
Shit.
Right.
They're no good.
Gets caught on the line there. Move it out of the way. Still got a nice bright line.
All this effort caused him to neglect his gauges, resulting in Dave feeling the effects of nitrogen narcosis, which include poor judgment, trouble concentrating, and reduced muscle and nerve function.
Oh
Put
no.
simply, he lost everything he needed to survive at that depth. He tried to cut the tangled line, but the lack of coordination made it near impossible. As he was
Fuck.
struggling to stay conscious, the last thing he saw was the terrifying view of Dion's lifeless face mask staring back at him. Shortly
Damn.
after this, Dave passed away.
Rest in peace,
The
Dave.
only silver lining was that the tangled line kept Dion's body close to Dave, allowing him to successfully complete his mission by recovering the body, only at the cost of his own life.
And W video chilling skills. W video chilling skills. This brother lives up to his name. This is the most scary, or most accurately scary brother I've ever seen on the platform. I swear to God.
Project,